Now, the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, has released a new book that looks at the role of fashion in politics.
Joining us now, Ginnie Chadyick-Healey, former executive retail editor at British Vogue, and former Education Secretary Gillian Keegan. Thank you both so much for joining us on this. A really interesting topic for us to discuss. Ginnie, can you just sum up for us, first of all, the way that you would frame Michelle Obama's kind of fashion overall?
Oh, she just used the stage beautifully. She knew her role and she was strategic from the get-go, quite frankly, because she'd come from a world where, you know, her mother was a seamstress, her grandmother was a seamstress. She had not been represented in the mainstream, and she knew that this was her moment as the first black woman in the White House to represent all those who had been unheard. Designers, makeup artists, hairstylists. She really used it to the max.
I just want to bring in Gillian, if I can, at this point as well. Gillian, you were obviously in frontline politics for an awfully long time. The focus of you, at different times, obviously, I'm sure pretty intense. If you're honest, how much time did you spend thinking or planning what you're going to wear?
Actually, quite a lot, because it's hard to be criticised when you're in your 50s for how you look, and that's basically what most of our female politicians have to deal with every day. You know, you're already aging, and actually Michelle Obama, you know, really owned that and aged fantastically well. But it is hard. So I did think about it, and I did make sure that I had a wardrobe of things that were not too kind of stand out, but you know, I felt comfortable in, but also looked professional and good. And one of the first pieces of advice I got actually when I started in the corporate world, age 16, was always dress for the job above you, which is kind of harder in the political world, but always dress the way people would expect you. Always look the part, as my grandmother would say.
So as a Minister of State, you were always dressing as Prime Minister?
Well, it depends on who that was. Quite frankly, my leopard skin kitten heel collection, I think, is small. I do have one pair actually, but it's small. But I think you always need to remove any doubt in the way you appear that you can do the job. I mean, it's the same as Sophy will have thought this morning, right, about what she was wearing, and she will get people who comment on it, positively and negatively. So it is just a factor. And one of the things that people say is, oh, does it happen more to women, to men? Probably it does. But again, in the corporate world, I was always grateful that I was the one who could walk on stage if there was a conference and you were doing presentations in bright red. All the men had to be in grey, black or blue, and I could stand out in green or bright red, and I always did. So you've got to look for the upside as well. So as a woman, you can...
I love that. And also particularly, you know...
through your clothes.
I love that, and particularly someone, Gillian, who, you know, as you say, you kind of pulled yourself up through life, if that makes sense, right? You know, you were very successful in the business world and then in Westminster as well, and I think it is great advice for people too. We're talking about power dressing, aren't we, I guess, Ginny? You know, how do you think Michelle Obama sort of managed to embody that, and would you agree with what Gillian was saying there?
I would always advise clients to, you know, dress as if you're going to be caught out. I've had it personally a few times, and you sort of hope people aren't judging you on a down day, but fundamentally you're always being judged, and as a woman it does happen more. And Michelle Obama refers to how Barack, her husband, would be able to just change his tie, roll up his sleeves and go to a kind of downtime event, whereas she had to really be more strategic. And she really heroed designers that would not have made it onto the mainstream.
Ginny, we've got a picture up here of her in her, I think this was at the inauguration ball.
Yeah.
You're nodding. This is an outfit you remember. Talk us through some of the highs and lows that she had to go through in terms of her fashion.
She knew that she was going to be judged on everything, from the designer's background, the fabric, the colour. Obviously, white was a big part. And she did wear the same designer, Jason Wu, to the inaugural ball 3 times. And so she really had an allegiance with key designers. But she also talks very much in the book about, you know, she had to consider how her arms were going to be judged. Honestly, it's things that men do not have to deal with, and whether you think fashion is frivolous or not, it does play a huge part in demonstrating the power of an individual, the confidence of an individual, and she really kind of held her own. And I think this book, I have to say, it's on my Christmas wish list. It's a stunning 200-page piece on how she navigated some really testing times. She was a mother, she says, down on her knees playing with her kids, and then she'd have to be on it, looking glamorous for the whole world to judge, support, criticise, whatever it might be at the same time.
Gillian, just to bring you in on that, because I know that Hillary Clinton kind of talked about the sort of time that it took to get sort of ready, camera ready to being a woman in politics, and how actually, in a way, that was like a pressure that her male rivals didn't have to deal with. Do you think it's true in British politics as well?
Yes, although not as much. I think the scrutiny that Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton came under was off the scale. And actually, much of it quite positive about Michelle Obama and much of it pretty negative about Hillary Clinton, from what I can remember. But they certainly got a lot more scrutiny than the average person. Now, they were trying to be president or first lady of the US. But you still find that people will comment on what you wear, how you look, more than what you say. And that is, as a politician, pretty frustrating, because that's not actually why you're there. And a lot of people have gone off piste in the UK. So they've kind of, gone for a coloured hair look or a chunky necklace look. And then they try to keep the same look. So it's kind of like a bit of a uniform. But I think it is less in the UK. And if I'm honest, one of the things that's most recently come, and I would say now is new advice for any politician, is make sure you buy your own clothes, because if you don't, you're going to get criticised for that.
Can I just ask, Gillian, just to sort of wrap things up? Obviously, we're talking about a new book about the First Lady's fashion. All of us and you kind of have chosen a job where we know we're going to be scrutinised, and I think you ladies definitely more than the men. But do you spare a thought for the Prime Minister's wife, judged often, having not chosen to be in the front line? We've got 30 seconds or so.
Very much so. And actually, you see Victoria Starmer sometimes, and, she does look very nervous. And quite right, because she didn't sign up to be scrutinised. I think she still works in the NHS. So I do think that I do spare a thought. However, I think, if you are in that position, I think you have to go more Michelle Obama. You really have to embrace it. And she has done. Again, I would advise her to buy her own clothes. But there is also that discussion, because the First Ladies do get a clothes allowance.
We are out of time. Our great thanks to Gillian and Ginny for that great conversation.